The following is brought to you by Bleacher Report. If you guys want to check out my live post-game reaction show, make sure to have the Bleacher Report app downloaded and ready to fire up right after the game. You'll find me in the Chargers section. Bolt up.
Kia ora, Bolt fam, kia ora, NFL fans. Welcome to this exciting edition of the Director's Reactions on Bleacher Report, featuring perhaps the most incredible game my Chargers eyes have ever witnessed. A riveting 6-0 score and victory for the Los Angeles Chargers over the New England Patriots. Okay, in the end, I'm going to say a win's a win, right? We needed a win badly. Chargers fans needed a win. Players needed a win. Coach needed a win. Ownership needed a win. Your cousin Joe needed a win. Okay? Everybody needs a win here. It's been a long season for the Chargers. It's been a depressing year for the fans. A lot of potential out the window when it comes to what this team could be. All the close losses. I think almost all of our losses resulting in like 3 points or less in terms of a difference in score. It's been a tough year. It's been a tough year. Needed the win. But I'm trying to find a way to feel like pretty good about it. And that's tough to say because I'm a pretty optimistic person in my walk of life, at least. I try to be looking at the bright side of things, glass half full. But this game seemed, okay, first off, it's a snoozer to start. 6-0, not a lot of offense on either side. Punt. Kind of felt like the rhythm of life this week. But this is the 2-9 Patriots that we won by one score. And the Patriots almost scored a touchdown a couple of times were it not for a great defensive, effort that would have resulted in a loss to this team ultimately. And it's a team that just doesn't have any momentum, the New England Patriots. And so what I'm trying to get at here is, yeah, we won and it's great. And I there's a part of me that feels great about it. It's a win. I'll wake up less depressed tomorrow as a Chargers fan. But I am a bit concerned as to the team not finding nearly any momentum offensively, even versus a New England Patriots defense that can be very, very, very good at times. I'll say that a talking point on this reaction video is actually going to revolve a little bit more around the Patriots and what they've built there in relation to what the Chargers brought to the table this week and what it could mean for the future for the team a little bit too. So before we get into all that though, let's jump into some of the statage of this game, as I do think it's kind of important to see what the Chargers have been up to in terms of defense, in terms of allowing yards, and in terms of what they were able to produce offensively. So let's start here at the stats with the Chargers. Justin Herbert had an okay day. 22 of 37, 212 yards, no touchdowns, but was able to keep drives alive just long enough for the offense to put up 6 points. 6 points. Okay. Austin Eckler. Now, before we wrap up Justin Herbert, I think Herbert had an okay day. Showed a lot of times that he's not immortal, made a couple of mistakes here and there, a couple of bad decisions. The option play, you guys remember that? It was 3rd and 4 or something like that, 3rd and 3. There was a quarterback option thrown in there. Weird play call where Justin Herbert had the opportunity to hand it off to Austin Eckler or take off. Completely misread the defense and ended up getting sacked for -2 or 3 yards, killed that drive. A couple examples of that this week with Justin Herbert showed that he is indeed mortal. Tossed a couple of off balls here and there. The accuracy took a little bit of a dip this week. Part of it, I will say, is in play of Justin Herbert. I will say that he's got to do better as a player. The other part of it, I do think we got to kind of tip our hat to Bill Belichick and that defense, which made life pretty difficult on Justin Herbert this week. Okay, we'll circle back around to that when we talk about the Patriots a little bit. Now, a big problem I'm seeing with the Chargers that I did want to bring up again this week is going to be the run game, okay? We did this thing live on my channel where every time Austin Eckler would get the ball on first down and pick up 1 to 3 yards, I would move the microphone and kind of put my face in the camera like this. And it's because I think it's so absurd to continue trying the same thing over and over and over again and seeing Austin Eckler pick up just so few yards. And it reminds me of some of the frustration we felt in the Anthony Lynn days a little bit. The first down runs, more often than not, were contained to 2 or 3 yards. And it felt like it was because it was very predictable. This year, it feels like it's because we lack the talent on the offensive line, especially in the center, at the center position, as well as our running back situation doesn't feel as traditional as most teams would like. Back when we were running with Melvin Gordon, it was probably a little bit more successful due to his size and strength. Austin Eckler is a bit different, and he's not been finding a lot of success. As a matter of fact, it feels like he's kind of fallen off this season. Pretty bad, if I'm not lying here. He's been struggling as a receiver, which is definitely his biggest strength and probably the biggest characteristic you know of about Austin Eckler. On the ground, it's been especially bad. This week, averaging 1.3 yards per carry on 14 attempts. I don't know what to say about that, man. I really don't. And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things that's causing an underperformance, an underwhelming performance by Kellen Moore, the new offensive coordinator, which Chargers fans, myself included, maybe even my fault, hyped to high heaven this offseason. My God, we finally got an offensive coordinator that knows what he's doing. His name's not Joe Lombardi. And he's going to bring to the table a lot of things that we're not used to seeing. And probably the number one thing that I was expecting to see change with this team was the run game. In week one, it felt that way, right? We went up against the Miami Dolphins, put up a great run game. I think it was like 200 yards that week. I felt like, yeah, finally we got this nice, complete, balanced offense. And it disappeared after that completely. And week after week, it kind of felt like it was getting worse. Sure, we've been going up against some good defenses, but we see other teams and other coordinators find some success versus it. It doesn't have to be the best. It's just got to be okay enough to help Justin Herbert. And that's going to be a big point of emphasis for me going forward. And a big point of emphasis for me in the draft, big point of emphasis for me in the offseason in terms of free agency, because running backs are easier to get your hands on than most other skill positions. I think Austin Eckler, as huge of a fan as I am, I'm a big fan of Austin Eckler. Some of my favorite plays of all time from the Chargers have been from number 30 on this team, and he will forever have my respect. I think we're just at that point in his career where the Chargers need something different. And this being the last season on his contract, I think the Chargers should push very hard to get a running back that more fits what Kellen Moore wants to do, assuming that Kellen Moore is still the OC next season. There's a huge chance that he's not. There's already rumor that he could get picked up by the Panthers for their head coach position, as well as maybe Boise State. Rumors flying here and there about that. But the run game, this week in particular, sticks out to me as a big problem that needs correcting. It's huge. And it's probably, outside of building a legitimate defense, is probably the biggest thing you can do to help your quarterback at Justin Herbert. Okay? So Austin Eckler, run game, very unimpressive. I get that the Patriots have a very good defense, particularly versus the run. But you got to find success somehow on the ground this week. And this isn't just indicative of this week. This is indicative of the season. Receiving wise, kind of a surprise for me this week. I wasn't expecting Keenan Allen to be active this week. And if he was, I wasn't expecting 9 targets. More of a distraction role or whatever is what I was expecting for Keenan Allen. Instead, he comes in here, puts up 58. Definitely not too bad for what I was expecting here on the defense. Quentin Johnston, however, man, this was almost the week. This was almost the week for Quentin Johnston to turn things around. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 52 yards. Unfortunately, one of those drops came at the worst time. Now, before that, Quentin was kind of the hero on third down, wasn't he? We were kind of finally starting to see the Chargers and Kellen Moore utilize this player and his talents to his strengths, which in my preview video for this week, we decided to go back and take a look at some of Quentin Johnston's highlights. And just as a refresher, right? We kind of know what he is, but I was like, I need to see it with my eyes again. What's going on? Why is Quentin struggling so bad? And it was really kind of crazy to me to see how apparent that we were misusing him, how badly we were misusing Quentin Johnston. And we say this every week. We're throwing Quentin Johnston in there with the idea of being Mike Williams, which is not going to work. Never going to work. Quentin is not Mike Williams. Mike Williams was a very special unicorn in the NFL with what he was able to do in contested catch situations, in spectacular catch situations, in contested catch situations. It was a special skill set that he brought to the table that not very many players in the NFL possess. So asking a rookie who looks like Mike Williams from the 6'4" stature to the dreads and all, to do what Mike Williams was doing for the Chargers is simply unfair. And this week I started to see signs of, okay, they're finally starting to see that Quentin isn't Mike. They're letting him be Quentin Johnston. They're throwing him some slants, some drags, some underneath work that he's turning into opportunities to produce yak, which is definitely one of his strengths. And then he has to go drop a wide open, beautiful pass from Justin Herbert on 3rd and long. We were building momentum. That's, I think, what stings the most, is that Quentin was finally building that game for himself, where it's like, you know what? This season might be alive after all for the rookie. And then the nasty drop turns its nasty head again. Unfortunately for Quentin, he's got a long way to go. To be clear, I'm not out on Quentin Johnston in the long run. I think that he can develop over time into a solid wide receiver 2 for this team. I really do believe that. But this season, I think it's going to be a struggle for him. And speaking of struggle, drops have been one of the biggest things that have bothered me this season. We often say poor Herbert in the chat. And it's not to make excuses for Herbert, because he does share a lot of the blame this week. But also, how many drop passes did we see this week? I think I counted 5, maybe 6, and a lot of them in crucial situations. When it comes to the Chargers and finding a way to produce more on offense, I think if you figure out the drop situation, you're probably not losing as many close games, and you're probably putting up better stats overall. I think Donald Parham dropped a big 3rd down. Of course, Quentin Johnson dropped the big 1st down. I know Keenan Allen had 1 or 2 drops in there that was uncharacteristic. Joshua Kelly had drops. Austin Eckler had drops. It was a nightmare out there this week. Chargers got to figure out that part of the game, because it's really costing them. It really, really is. Now, player of the game. The Chargers, having won this game, are in the locker room getting ready to give a game ball to a particular player. You guys in the comment section want to guess who I would give the game ball to this week? You want to know who I give the game ball to? Okay, I would give it to Khalil Mack. It's not a big dramatic reveal here. I think Khalil Mack, now with 15 sacks on the season, has been absolutely on fire. Ties his season, or I should say his career high in season sacks at 15. Absolutely insane. But if there are 2 balls to give out this week, game balls to give out in the locker room, I think the other one probably goes to our punter. It was that kind of game, man. We pinned him inside the 10, sometimes inside the 5, like 3 or 4 times. So you know what? Let's give our flowers to J.K. Scott as well, the punter. But Khalil Mack, absolutely fantastic season from him. 15 sacks. The record for a single season high in sacks, I think, is held by T.J. Watt and Michael Strahan at 22.5. Does Khalil Mack have a chance to break that record? I think he's sniffing it at this point. I think Khalil Mack, in his twilight years with the Chargers, has found a way to just reinvent himself and bring back that old version of K-Mac that we didn't know still existed, man. This is absolutely such a crazy thing to witness as Chargers fans. And I'm glad that this week it wasn't wasted. Of course, last week versus the Ravens, he had a great week. Didn't matter. We kind of lost pretty terribly there. This week, we at least grabbed the win. He gets the 2 sacks, and he continues his tour in 2023 to maybe get close to breaking the record. I don't know. But it's definitely nice to see there. The defense did their job as well. If we're giving flowers to our punter, we got to give flowers to our defense, which produced the first shutout that I can remember in a long, long time. Chat, do you guys remember when the last shutout was for this team? Let me see. Did somebody mention it before? It's been a while. It's been a long time since I've seen the opposing team put up 0 points. And that's just because the Chargers' defensive backcourt has been so bad. That group has been so leaky. This week, they did a pretty dang good job, especially considering that Mike Davis has been underperforming. I think Jasir Taylor was out this game. It was Bassey in at star. Derwin James had a particularly good game. Eric Kendricks had a particularly good game. Good for the defense this week. Good for the defense. On the other side of that, though, we got to realize that we're playing up against Bailey Zappi. We've done this a couple of times this year. We shut down Zappi. We shut down Zach Wilson. We shut down Tyson Bagent of the Bears. A bunch of quarterbacks that you would hope to shut down. We did it. That's great. But in the end, if we didn't put up a shutout versus the Patriots, we may have lost this game. So still, tip of the cap to the defense. We needed them this week. They stepped up, didn't allow any points. Can't really ask much more than that. I was hoping for another turnover or two. But other than that, the defense did a good job. They did a good job. Whatever. I think we shut out Miami last. Yeah, I think it might have been Miami last. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But the defense did their job today. Offense did just enough to squeeze a dub out of this one. And off and away we go. Now the Patriots. Let's talk a little bit about these guys. Now, Bailey Zappi, I knew this wasn't going to be a huge game in terms of a threat from the quarterback position. We heard a lot of chatter that Zappi was going to end up starting this game. Of course, that did happen. And we predicted that Zappi would get zapped by the Chargers pass rush. And, of course, that also did happen to the tune of 5 sacks. Let's see, 2 on Mac. I think there was 1 with Fox. There was some unknown guy, number 58, that we elevated from the practice squad. They got mad at me. I think his name was Hollins. Chat got mad at me because he was a Duck. I'm sorry. I don't follow all the Ducks. But they did a good job this week. That being said, I think 141 yards is still a career high, I think, for Bailey Zappi, who usually gets thrown in as like co-quarterback. You guys know how that works? It was a lot of Mac and Zappi at the same time. Anyway, Zappi at times looked unstoppable. He was hitting some huge passes, but in the end, 141 yards, no touchdowns. Absolutely not going to get the job done. Now, rushing is somewhere I'm a little bit concerned with the Chargers here. Ezekiel Elliott, 17 attempts, 52 yards, 3.1 per carry. It looked worse than it turned out to be, in my opinion. It looked like Zeke was kind of running on all over us. 3.1 a carry isn't bad, but it looked worse at the time. But they got a nice little running attack in there. It was Stevenson that I was very worried about, who was averaging 4.3 a carry. He was just gouging us. And unfortunately for the Patriots and for Stevenson, he went down with injury early in this game, but it looks like the Patriots were ready. And Stevenson was about to be the weapon they used to take us down. I dare say it. If Ramondre Stevenson didn't get hurt this week, I think we lose this game. Isn't that crazy? And that's kind of what I'm saying is I'm a little worried about the run defense, which was in the first half of the season pretty admirable, right? They were putting up a pretty nice performance in terms of not allowing too many yards per game. I think they were well under 100 yards per game. You can certainly say this week will help that stat. But Stevenson was on pace for a pretty big week. And it was very clear that was the Patriots' plan of attack, to use Stevenson, just run the ball down our throats, and it was working. Elliott picked up the torch and did a pretty good job despite that. But if Stevenson didn't go down, I think we would probably be looking at a different score this week at least. Now, receiving, we kind of did expect Parker to get a lot of those targets. He did. He did an okay job. Not much to say here. The only thing I was looking for was maybe a revenge game by Hunter Henry. That didn't happen. Whole lot of nothing this week. Whole lot of nothing. If there was a title for this week's game, it would be much to do about nothing. Much ado about nothing. A snoozer of a game for the Chargers and Patriots. So it kind of a struggle to even find stuff to talk about this week. Okay, so as far as the stat sheet goes, that's what you're looking at for the offense there. The defense continued to be very, very good for the Patriots, however. And that's kind of what I want to close this discussion on in Bleacher Report, at least. We've talked a little bit about on my channel. I might actually be putting out more content revolving around this subject in the next coming weeks, as well as we get closer to the close of the season. This week was a front row seat for Chargers fans to examine and witness the Bill Belichick defense, which got to work this week. Okay, they look like a terrible team. I get it. New England Patriots, now at 2-10, is that right? Are a terrible football team. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But I think it's mainly because of their offense. This defense, on the other hand, they ain't bad. They ain't bad this season. At 2-10 now, right? At 2-10, they still don't look bad this season, as far as the defense is concerned. And that's one thing Bill Belichick definitely brings to the table. In my last video talking about Bill, I went back and I looked at the past, I think, 16 seasons. We'll say 20, I think. It was 20 seasons of Bill Belichick and what he's accomplished as a head coach. I think in those 20 seasons, most of those, I would say almost all of those seasons, he produced a top half defense outside of like 2 or 3 outliers. And then in a few of those seasons, obviously, he produced a top 10, top 5, sometimes top 3 defense in the league. That is consistency if I've ever seen it. Okay? And if you guys watch my content, you'll know there's a little rumor going around that Bill Belichick may want to join the Bolts in the future. There's a lot of rumors about that with Sean Payton last year. It turns out, from what I'm hearing, that a lot of that could have been true, as likely true. And there was an attempt, at least, to get him in there to coach the Chargers. Now, it might be the same case, but with Bill Belichick. And if you're going to get one thing with Bill, which a lot of people are saying no on Bill, they don't want Bill Belichick to the Chargers. I get that. A lot of people say that his dependency on Tom Brady exposed him the last couple of years. He's completely destroyed this roster, destroyed Mac Jones. Without Tom Brady, he's literally nothing. I disagree. I think Bill Belichick, without Tom Brady, is still a great defensive coach. I think he's a great defensive mind. He's constantly, year after year, with probably the longest track record in the NFL, producing some of the best defenses you'll see in the league. And what if he leaned on Tom Brady a little bit too much? Guess what? He comes to the Chargers. He's got Justin freaking Herbert, which would alleviate a lot of that pressure off of needing a good quarterback to perform. Mac Jones is nowhere near Justin Herbert. And so I just wanted to throw that out there into the universe here on Bleacher Report before closing this up, because this was an important game for us to kind of go out there and see what that sample size could kind of look like. It was important for Bill Belichick to witness what Justin Herbert was like. Of course, he knows. Every time I've seen Bill Belichick talk about Justin Herbert, he's almost gushing over him. So uncharacteristic for Bill Belichick. There's a lot of talk about that going around. A lot of Chargers fans wondering what that could be, if the legitimacy behind that is real. I will say, from what I'm reading, my gut says yes, it's real. And it could be a thing. And I guess that's going to be a big talking point, at least in my channel, I'm sure, for a lot of Chargers fans going forward into the rest of the season. And that's probably the biggest thing next to this win that I would mark and put a note against for Week 13, Chargers versus New England Patriots. It was the potential of a coach change in the future. I think a lot of us are expecting Brandon Staley to get fired. There's talk now that Coach Kellen or coordinator Kellen Moore could get hired as a coach somewhere else. The Panthers, the Boise State. I think some change is due by the end of the season. And if we're to follow the rumors that we're hearing, my opinion personally, Chargers will be in really good hands with Bill. And it sounds like he wants in. Are there other great options? Of course. There's Johnson, there's Harbaugh, there's options out there that I would feel good about. But I think I want a 6-time Super Bowl winner leading my team that has great defensive instincts, and in the end kind of produces exactly what the Chargers want. It feels like the Chargers want a defense that has Justin Herbert's back, that takes a lot of pressure off of the shoulders of Justin Herbert, and ultimately helps win us more games. I think that's something that could definitely be accomplished with a coach like Belichick. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me this week. Snoozer of a game, I understand. Snoozer of a game, but a lot to learn from it. I think the defense put up a good show. Offense did just enough. Does this change my opinion of what I think the Chargers could be this season? Not really. I think at this point I have them at, would it be 7 wins, which could, I don't know. It could be better than that, but it's going to be a tough road. The Chargers still have the Chiefs again. We've got the Bills. The Denver Broncos have been resurging as one of the better teams in the NFL. It's going to be a tough break out there. All right. But keep your heads up. Have fun as Chargers fans. Just because the season's been rough doesn't mean we can't have fun every week. Support Justin Herbert and this team, and ultimately daydream of what the future could hold, especially at the head coach position. I think we've seen firsthand in the AFC West what a solid coach can do to a team like the Denver Broncos. Let's hope the Chargers are next in line for the next big head coach hire. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you see in here, hit us up with a follow on Bleacher Reports. We should be coming back sooner than later here for another show. We'll keep you guys informed on there. We'll catch you guys next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty, and let's go Bill to LA, man. Let's start the movement.